and today we're going to be talking about, of course, astrology in the news. And man, after a short little hiatus here, wow, what an eventful week last week was. Man, Mars retrograde really lived up to the hype, at least as far as making people really anxious and upset and especially aggressive. Mars is really about aggression and anger. So that is not disappointing. So what happened last week? Gee, I wonder. Justice Kennedy decided to retire from the Supreme Court. Holy shit, this is a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Because the ideological balance of the court, or the balance of the court hangs in the balance. Of course, I said balance too much. What am I trying to say? The ideological makeup of the court hangs in the balance. So Justice Kennedy basically was the swing voter, even though he swung more right than he did left. He swung left enough to make people like him. And now I think the left is going to be looking toward Roberts to be the swing vote, I guess. But, he's probably Kennedy-ish, but he's one right more often. So, yeah, this is basically going to change everything. And, looking at the makeup of the court right now, I mean, a lot of the liberal judges are getting old, like Sandra Day O'Connor and Breyer. Those two are getting very old. So Trump may even get a third pick. Possibly. I can't say that for sure. But here we have Justice Kennedy, a moderate right, let's see, I can say conservative moderate. Let's see, and take a look at his chart here. This is interesting. You take a look at this, and I don't see judging here anywhere. But what we can do is we do have an exact birth time for Justice Kennedy. So he's actually an Aries ascendant with Uranus in the first house. So he's actually creeping up on a Uranian return here. This happens at about 84, 85 years of age, right? And so I think the Uranian turn, as we go farther into the age of Aquarius, is going to be like the new Saturn return, where, hey, you got to your first Uranian return. Are you still alive? Or how did your first Uranian return go? So really fascinating stuff how things change. So now, what is he going to be doing? So if you take a look at his dasha here, this might be a little hard for you to see, but right in here, whoopsie, now you know what the next subject is. Right in here is he's going to be going into his K2 dasha here in 2020, so that's coming up very, very close. K2's in his third house, conjunct Mars. What does this mean? Writing career. I think Justice Kennedy's going to write a lot of books, and he's actually going to probably be a very good author. This is very good too, like with Mars. Mars in the third house is generally very good for writing, especially writing short stories. And I guess at his level, you could consider maybe some like justice opinions. Like I know he's written a lot of majority opinions. And dissenting too. I think he wrote the dissenting opinion on, geez, I forget. I think, no, actually he's written a majority opinion on the gay marriage and trial. I forgot the dissenting opinions anyway. I'm not a legal expert, obviously. But, you see with Mars in here, in the third house, that's good for short writing short stories. And I guess for him, a short story might be a legal opinion, even though those things can go very, very long. It's not like it's a novel, though. So, I mean, they are limited. So, yeah, I think he's going to be doing a lot more writing, in his retirement here. Now, this is a very, very interesting placements right here. This is Cancer. This is in the third house. Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Pluto all right in basically in the middle of Cancer. This is a guy who actually goes on his gut feeling. He actually really cares a lot about how he interprets things. So, he kind of goes a little bit more conservative, but really people with a lot of planets in Cancer tend to be a little more liberal bent. And so this is interesting because, there's not a lot of planets here in air signs. I mean, he has, let's see, Saturn here in Aquarius, and he has Mars here in Gemini, but this is very well balanced. And then he also has the moon here in, let's see, the moon here is in Virgo. So all of these air signs are balanced out very well with the water signs. So we have somebody that's very intellectual, but also has a heart. Okay, that's how I would really describe Justice Kennedy. It's somebody that's very, very attentive to the law, but really his feelings play a lot into how he actually interprets the law. It really depends on the judge. Some judges go all the way Cancerian, and other judges go all the way air sign. So actually it was water versus air. Air is logic, water's more of feelings and emotions and things like that. So yeah, so you got this like huge stellium of planets here in the sign of Cancer. Then, of course, the moon being in Virgo makes somebody a little bit emotionally particular, picky, but it also gives a very organized mind, too. Like the emotions are organized. So even though he has all these planets here in Cancer, his emotions don't get too out of control because it's tempered by the moon being in an air sign. So, it's interesting. He feels, but he's very good at interpreting those feelings through a logical lens. So this is actually a very good combinations for a judge, not as a career, but just having the ability to have very good judgment. Let's see, Jupiter and Scorpio in the eighth usually means a divorce. I don't think he's ever gotten divorced in his life. I don't even know if he's married or what his marriage life is, but usually Jupiter in the eighth. Well, this one's retrograde, but it gives somebody very interesting ethical and moral opinions. Interesting, right? And then, of course, Saturn is pretty well placed here, except it's retrograde, but it's like in Sandy right here. It's at 29 degrees, so makes it a little bit weaker. So Saturn in the 11th house, usually retrograde makes somebody have a very large network of friends, things like that. This is also due aspecting as Mars. Well, actually, no, Mars and Saturn are trying each other, which helps. Actually, Mars and Saturn don't get along too well, so this actually kind of creates a little bit of a conflict with each other. All right, moving on. So, as you saw earlier, Trump's winning streak continues, and boy, there's been a lot of very, very bad predictions on Donald Trump because there's a lot of biased astrologers. And let me take a look at Donald Trump's chart again here. So really, what we have here, Donald Trump doesn't, just by nature, his ascendant in Mars, being conjunct Regulus, is somebody who wins a lot. Not just like all the time, but it really depends on his dasha. So he's actually in his Jupiter dasha right now, which is a very good dasha. And a lot of people seem to overlook that as Jupiter is trying his sun. When Jupiter is trying your sun, you have a lot of good luck. I mean, luck will just come out of nowhere. So, I mean, taking a look at his chart, really, it's all about really the dasha cycle. Now, when things start to get hairy, though, you see right here, it goes into Jupiter Saturn. So Jupiter Saturn starts on January 4th of of next year, and so that's going to be after the midterm elections. This is really when he is going to start having some difficulty. And if you take a look, Rahu's going to be transiting his Saturn here. Actually, we're going to get into that in a minute, but really here, let's take a look at his transit chart. So this is what I'm talking about. So let's see the inside. So Donald Trump is on the inside here. So why, I think I've seen a lot of Vedic astrologers do Donald Trump's chart, and the one thing that they always overlooked was his Sade Sate, the transit of Saturn over his moon in Ketu, and that happened last August. And of course, I was saying that if Trump wasn't taken out, by either by the deep state or impeached or whatever by last August, he was going to be fine. And that's why we see this winning streak going on, because he got through the lowest point of his presidency already. So here it's all uphill from here. He actually survived a very, very difficult Sade Sate because his moon is debilitated here in Scorpio. Donald Trump has a rough moon. It's debilitated. It's exactly conjunct the south node of the moon. And he was born during very, very close to a lunar eclipse. Now, the question is, even though this is a very difficult moon, does somebody born during a lunar eclipse have different kinds of abilities and different kinds of ways of processing their emotions? And I would say yes. The one thing that people just don't understand about Donald Trump is if you want him to go away, you basically have to not pay attention to him. The more attention that you keep throwing at Donald Trump, he loves the attention. He loves it. And people just keep giving it to him. It doesn't matter if it's good attention or it's bad attention. It's really just about attention, about being relevant, about staying relevant, about being number one. And you see this with this Saturn Rahu conjunction here. A lot of people say this is a difficult conjunction. And actually, yes, it is. It is very difficult. However, you have to consider timing. What are times like now that we live in? They're extremely divided. They're very, very emotionally charged and aggressive and stuff. And Donald Trump is like I don't know, a sponge. He's sucking all this stuff up and he's loving it. And so the time that Donald Trump goes away is the time that he becomes irrelevant. Or the first part, when he becomes irrelevant, like a lame duck or something like that, and he has no power, poof, that's when he goes away. But if people keep throwing all his attention at him, he's going to keep getting stronger and stronger. I'm trying to think of an analogy of something where you just keep throwing negative attention at it. It's kind of like a black hole, you know, it just sucks everything in and it gets stronger. So I'm telling you, you know, astrologers and everybody, I mean, he is here right now to absorb all this negative attention and enjoy it. So take that for what it's worth. All right. So speaking of Trump, let's talk about the Trump-Putin summit happening in Finland on 7/16. So I took a look at so this is actually pretty interesting. So starting with Donald Trump here, this is actually not the best timing for Donald Trump. It's not terrible. I'm not seeing anything here that's just like, oh my God, it's like, don't do it, don't go there. Really what it is Sun conjunct Saturn right here in the sign of Cancer. That's kind of difficult. That's actually very limiting. And so how I'm reading this in Donald Trump's chart is he's going to go to this conference, but he's going to feel very limited by, specifically Saturn represents Democrats in the United States chart. So all of this narrative that, you know, is going through about Russia and everything like that is going to tamper down anything that he wants to do at this summit because he's going to feel extremely restricted. He's not going to be able to express his ego, which is basically Donald Trump's signature trait is his ego, his sense of I, his like bigness, and Saturn's going to tamp this down. Now, however, Vladimir Putin has got some pretty awesome transits going on right now. So Vladimir Putin, first of all, Jupiter is transiting his first house. It's going to be conjunct Venus, and then he's going to have the moon conjunct Mercury here, and then Mercury conjunct Pluto here. So basically, Vladimir Putin's going to deliver his message because there's a lot of Mercury energy in here. So this is about communication. This is, and Jupiter just being conjunct Venus, I think this is going to be like the reverse of the Korea. This is actually like the reverse of the Korea summit where Donald Trump's chart was very well, you know, the transits were very well placed. Whereas Kim Jong-un's was a little bit more like, you know, so-so, like he's going to be enamored with Trump. And I think he was. And this is going to be the exact opposite of that. So Donald Trump's going to go to Helsinki, and I think he's going to be a little bit more enamored with what Vladimir Putin has to say, which, of course, is going to give Russia more of like negotiating power, or at least as leaders. This one is really going to be a solid victory for Putin. Not saying it's going to be a loss for Donald Trump, but it looks more like a wash for Donald Trump, or at least that he's going to feel so limited that he'll walk out of there and just kind of be like, man, I wish I could have been more grandiose, but I can't. So that's the way it goes. I'm sure there's going to be other summits and things like that, but really this one is in Vladimir Putin's favor. So I guess we'll see how it goes. And that's all I have for today. Of course, thank you for watching. If you want to book a consultation, go to nobigsecretsyoga.com and click on book a consultation. If you have any ideas or any charts you want me to cover, just send an email to nobiusyoga@gmail.com. And that is all I have for you today. Hopefully this week I will have more shows. I've been really, so my ascendant, what's been going on with me is my ascendant is Aries, and this retrograde Mars has just been vicious. It's actually in my 10th house, and my day job is IT, and so this has really been affecting my work. And what happened was I actually injured myself, because that's Mars. I injured both of my ankles, and it's been really tough to walk. So work's been extremely difficult because I actually have to move around a lot for, yeah, I do support. So I'm, you know, wiring closets, running wires, you know, switches, routers, and all that fun stuff. So hopefully this week I will be better. So, you know, say a prayer for me if you pray. I always appreciate those. Otherwise, have a great day and have a safe 4th. Don't blow up too much. Bye-bye.